I am going to tell you a story while I flip through this composition book that I have here. I'm sorry if the video is a little dark. I turned off my overhead light so that there was no glare. Over a year ago, I had come across a bunch of free books and magazines on Facebook that somebody was getting rid of. And a lot of you know that. A lot of you came to my auctions and bought them. They were a lot of antique books. Well, one of the things that they had was 40 plus years of National Geographic. I don't think I have every single month, but I'll bet you I have 3/4 of 40 years worth of National Geographic. So we have two 53-foot standard, 18-wheeler box trailers in our yard that we use for storage. And one of them has our household goods, and I have a big shelf that's full of books and things that I'm keeping for my art. And the shelves are 3 feet wide and 3 feet tall. So I have about 6 rows of National Geographics that are 3 feet wide. That are 3 feet tall. So imagine how many magazines that is. So I took bunches of them out this past week or so, and I started harvesting some because I'm doing this 100 thing challenge. But what I'm also doing is I am going through and using up and or purging things that I own already. And one of the things is that huge mound of magazines out there that I can't keep forever, and it's only a matter of time before bugs or whatever get into it. Mice make nests or whatever. So I go through these magazines and I find all of these images that are large, right? They're large. They're things you can't necessarily cut up, okay? This double spread here is gorgeous, but what are you going to do? You can't really cut that up, and if you did, it would still take up just about a whole page, right? So what I did was I said, well, you know what? I'm going to make a pile of backgrounds. So these are the pages that I consider to be backgrounds. Now, some of them I might leave it. Who knows? This page where this guy is this bullhead here, I might not put anything at all on this page. But when I am arting, I tend to like starting with something, to feel less pressure. If I'm gluing just to occupy my mind in some way, sometimes it's easier for me to do it on a picture or on an image, or not starting with a blank page, in other words. And I find that when I'm doing these style glue books, I tend to go through it and just glue a bunch of large images and large pictures. There's a horse in their living room. And then I put my smalls on top. So I said, well, why don't I just take a couple of books, right, and just put backgrounds in them? So I already have a starting point. There's nothing intimidating at all about this page. I have an image. I have something to work with. If I could find more birds to go here, maybe a person flying through the sky. Who knows? Something poking up out of the grass here. A bug or a bee or something flying. The possibilities are endless when you're looking at a picture that's already started. Like I said, I might not add anything at all. This is a part of a painting that's gorgeous, but I might put something else up here, smaller things. Now, I know that a lot of people take books and they paint all the pages, or they use it as wipe off pages, and that's great. And I use painty papers a lot. I find that I use my painty papers, though, on smaller scales. I die cut them, or I rip them into bits and glue them in. I find that I don't use painty papers often as a background, and I'd like to. When I do use something painted as a background, it's when I paint a background and then put stuff on it. I'm not necessarily using an already created painty paper and gluing it in and then adding. I find that I'll take my smaller jelly plate that I made and I will, you know, stamp it down a bunch of times and then put something on top. I don't know why. I don't know why I don't use my already created painty papers, but I don't. So, but I find that that's what I tend to do. Some pages are not glued because I like both sides. So these ones I'm going to just tape in so that, I have the full image here, but I also have this cool pink crab dude. And I've done that a few times. This is my second book that I've done. In the last few nights, we've just been watching TV. I haven't felt that great. In these last couple weeks. So, I find that I'm doing a lot of sitting work. And one of those things has been harvesting the magazines. And then these last few days I've been gluing. See, this one here, I have 2 pages that I'm going to tape in. Okay, so I wanted to keep this whole coral page. I like this page with the little fish, and I also like this here with all these, I don't know, sardini looking things, anchovies, I don't know what they are. The reason why I started gluing them like this, honestly, was because I had a stack that was probably about 2 feet high of harvested pictures. What I do when I harvest a magazine is I go through and I rip everything out pages of things that I like, whether it's words or whatever. I rip the whole page, then I put it all into a box, and then I go through on another time when I'm feeling like doing little, busy work, and I cut out the images on, smaller. I cut out the smaller images that I want to keep, and I sort them from there, usually by size, in a bunch of boxes. Well, I have these boxes, they're called Snapware, and what they do is they layer on top of each other, okay? I have one set that's 5 or 4 containers that are snapped together, and I was putting all my backgrounds in one of those compartments of those containers. But it overflowed. I couldn't close it. So I said to myself, well, I got to do something with some of these backgrounds. I mean, I'm going to be harvesting more magazines, and I don't have room. I don't have any room. So that's what spawned this idea. I said, I'm going to have to start gluing some of these down. And I said, why don't I just make a background book? So I did. This one here I'm going to tape in. See, because it folds out 3 ways, and I really like the pencil-y look of these pages. And then I like the back of it. I didn't read this. This has something to do with, science and space, but I don't know. So, but I like it. It's pretty. So I just started gluing backgrounds into composition books. I'm gonna alter a few books too to do this. Again, using up some of the stock of books that I have that aren't necessarily desirable and pretty, but they would work well for things like this. But this is just another idea, I think, to get you started on art and to get you using up these images, the larger ones that you have, Now, I have a whole compartment of just texture pages, which are just designs or whatever. Like if this, like this here, to me, is a texture. So, I have a whole box of things that are like this, and, a lot of greenery, and things like this. This is nice, and that's textured. And I also put those in. So, like on this page here, I might take a strip of one of those textures and add it here, or on this side. The possibilities of it are endless to alter it. When going through National Geographic, I find that I stay away from war, I stay away from illness, and I stay away from poverty. with exceptions of things like this that have the vehicles, that have the buildings, the different languages. This is a cultural page to me. This isn't showing you an impoverished area. But I tend not to go after pictures, anything that would sadden somebody. So I don't. My art is light. My art is fun. I understand that here is a bear claw on a plate, but I do like the whole thing, so I'm going to cover up the bear claw. I'm sitting here telling you about sad things. But I don't like, anything that would otherwise hurt somebody. This I picked for the yellow building. Okay, so this here will be covered. I really liked the building. Um, you know, so I like cultural pages. I like cultural pieces. I like things that show you how another place lives. Because honestly, I like to look at a picture like this one. I like to look at a place and I like to get lost there. Okay, I like to get lost in that picture. So that's why I pick the pictures that I pick. You know, I find things that are like this right here. I find a place like this is just beautiful. Um, or this. I want to stand here, and just look at it and just be there, be in that moment, you know, and that's what the deciding factor on choosing a lot of my background images, um, which are basically pictures that are too big to add to anything. Okay, they're too big to add. And I love nature. I love color. I love sunsets. I love foliage. I go after those pictures. I love buildings. I don't love buffaloes, but this is pretty cool. You gotta admit, that is pretty cool. I love other countries. Like this, I think, is somewhere in Europe. And I like that. I like the house here. I like that this is somebody's life here. I like to imagine that life. I like to think about how that person lives. Um, I like this. What's inside that house? What's beyond that window? Why is that girl trying to get that dog through the window? This little hut here, right? It looks like it might be somebody's workshop or shed. Where's the house? What's in that workshop? What are they doing there? I picture like a nice little wood shop and they're whittling away and carving things. I like to get lost in an image. So I have this book and then I have this book, and this one here isn't as thick because this had about a half a dozen, maybe a dozen pages I used. So I ripped them out. I ripped those book pages out. So this one isn't as thick as this one. Holy crap. But this one here with the designed cover, it came from Dollar Tree, and I learned that the quality of the paper, I don't know why. I think it's just this designed cover. It's different than a lot of the other composition books that I've had. The paper was much more absorbent, and I used a glue stick, and the glue stick, I had to go through and like re-glue a lot. This one I used regular Elmer's glue, and some of the pages look pretty bumpy, but honestly they are drying flat. This might still be pretty damp from last night. And the National Geographic pages respond better to the liquid glue because they're a little thicker. But I think if I used like fashion magazines, I would do the glue stick. I just wouldn't use this style because this paper, is much different. I won't flip through this whole thing, but this paper is much different than most composition paper. It's very absorbent to the glue. I don't know why. Because I've bought other composition books from Dollar Tree, and they weren't this type of paper. So it's definitely different. I don't know if they had bought some from a company that was a different manufacturer. See, like this here is coming up, and I could pull that whole piece up right now if I wanted. But I thought that this could be another idea for you people who also collect large pictures and large pages. Like this is gorgeous. I love anything structural. I love buildings and houses. See, look, that right there just came up. I just picked it, and now the whole thing wants to come off. So I'll have to put that back down. Grab my Aleene's here, just because I have it right here. And, woo, right on the corner, and just push it down and hope for the best. I love windows, I love doors, I love nature, color, like I've said, this person is flying with skis. Where are they flying from? Where are they flying to? Are they going to die? Is this picture their last ever, moment? Who knows? Who knows? And this with the beautiful galaxy and, this train is just awesome, So that's what I tend to go for. And I have all these pictures of all this beautiful scenery, and I'm always like, what am I going to do with them? Where am I going to put them? Because you can't cut it down. You can't cut the scenery out. It's the whole page. It's the whole picture. So I said, well, what if I start with it? What if I take a book and I start with those images and I add to them from there? 90% of these National Geographics that I have are vintage. They are 90s and earlier. I have a bunch from 2000. The newest one I found in there was from 2016. But the majority of them are from the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. So I do like that effect. Like this here is a 70s picture, and you could tell by the quality. This here, or 80s, I think that one is. Whereas this one is definitely 1970s. You could tell that by the quality of the picture that was taken. I filled these two books. I did not leave any blank pages. I completely filled them up. And they are big and they are fluffy, and they're just going to get bigger with the things that I add. So, like I said, and I keep repeating myself, but I just really wanted to share a different way to use up those images that you have that you don't know what to do with. So I hope that this video is inspiring to some people, and I'm sorry if now you're going to go looking for new images in magazines and you really can't afford to, because I know that pain too. I'm always watching people and I'm like, oh, look what she finds in magazines. I should start looking for that. And then next thing you know, I have a whole nother box filled with more stuff. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm making you collect new things. But, it's fun. And I had a lot of fun, especially since I haven't been feeling that good, just mindlessly flipping from the front to the back of the book and gluing these in. I didn't do them in a row. I did flip, one page here and one page here, and then I go like this, and then one page here, and then one page here. So that they don't bow out on one side. They stay pretty, the spine stays pretty uniform. See? This one is so much bigger. Look at how much bigger that is. But I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you can. I'd love to see what you do with some of your background books if you decide to make any. And that is all that I have for today. So ta-ta for now.